And welcome to another edition of Spits and Suds, a Friday edition. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you so much for listening. If you're a first-time listener, we truly appreciate you. A big-time stick tap to you. We are proudly presented by the On Time Experts. And joining us for our Friday chat is the greatness of Sean Shapiro. First, let's mention the On Time Experts and that guaranteed same-day service. It's going to be a great weekend. The weather, it's like, oh my goodness, this DFW weather. But what happens when it changes? And you know Texas weather. It changes just like that. 40 to 50 degrees in one day. Is your HVAC unit prepared for it? The On-Time Experts will make that decision for you. They have an awesome special right now, $59. Think about that. Peace of mind for $59. You don't even have to change your day because they have that same day guaranteed service. So just, you got a couple of chores around the house, they'll show up during that time window. They'll do that $59 special. They'll give you a tune-up. They'll give a cleaning. They will reassure you that your HVAC system is ready, not just for this upcoming winter, but also for the spring and also for the summer. Just can't say enough about them. Nearly 6,000 Google reviews. 4.8 out of 5 stars. If that was a restaurant, you couldn't get in the door because it would be completely booked. So remember, when you want to have your HVAC or plumbing taken care of and make sure everything's okay, or if you need a repair done fast, think of the On-Time Experts, theontimeexperts.com. Well, I was thinking of this man last night. I was getting my questions ready. He is our NHL and Stars expert. You can check him out on his Substack at Shapshots, and terrific writing done by Sean, and some really, really good stories about hockey players. And that's what, I absolutely love, the stories that aren't necessarily in the headlines. And of course, he writes for D Magazine and EP Ringside. We bring him in. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing pretty well, man. I'm happy to be here. Happy to have another Friday chatting with you. And it's always fun to have these chats. Obviously, you and I will have a good show whether the Stars have been winning or losing, by the nature of you and I having a good rapport here. But I will say it is a bit nice to come on the show and come on the air when there's a bit of a winning streak going on. So I can't complain about that.
Oh, absolutely. I did want to ask if you thought about this during the game last night, because 7-0 blowouts, and I kind of talked about this on the podcast, is automatically we're thinking, all right, that's awesome. Jason Robertson, 2 good games in a row. And we're thinking of all those things. And we're thinking of Casey DeSmith, who played fantastic with the shutout. And then I started thinking about the opposition with Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield and Lane Hudson and all these superstars by Montreal, these young talent that the Stars basically shut down. What a great game defensively that maybe we need to also highlight.
Yeah. Now, I think last night, it's a funny game last night. It's one of you win 7-0. You score 7 goals on 18 shots. You get outshot 23-18. And to me, it's more... I'll be honest, the defending actually, the end result was great, the 0 goals against. But I do think last night the defending within that game and the defending recently is something that Glenn Goldson and his staff, I'm sure, were thinking long and hard about on the flight out of Montreal late last night. So I give a lot of credit to Casey DeSmith. It's funny where a team wins 7-0, and we talk this much about the goalie, but I mean, he stopped 14 shots in the first period, I think it was.
Yeah,
right.
He was great in the first.
And that game is, if they're down 2-1, 3-1 going into the second, I don't know if the Canadiens crumple the way they do in the middle period there. So I think I look at a little bit more of that, where I think 2 things can be true, and this is where it's okay to look at the flaws in what's happening right now and be worried about them, and it's okay to worry about fixing them. The Stars themselves are very worried about fixing them. I know Daryl Ray even said on the broadcast last night how how Glenn Goldson had told him that Glenn had some recent one-on-one conversation with the players about not being happy with their play and working on it. It's also a luxury, Gavin, to be to kind of getting through this stuff, right? Getting through these season struggles, this play and everything like that, and still winning games. To me, that's the mark of a very good hockey team. To me, that's the mark of a team that can figure things out and get things done. And it's not, and the Stars aren't just for lack of a better word on this, it'd be one thing if it was, hey, they were up and down and winning and long losing streak, long winning streak combined and everything like that. And then you'd look at a winning streak and be like, oh, well, the bounce just started going their way. There is a talent to winning close games where you play ugly. And as much as people don't like that and it's hard to quantify, I'm a big believer in that. I think you can win, if you can win ugly games, I think there's a talent to it. And I really only think it's something that really good teams are the ones that are able to do that. So if any of that makes sense, Gavin, as I go back to you.
It does. And I'm glad you countered my point, because then I would like to, ask is, are there any defensive deficiencies that, kind of jump out at you? The one thing I will say about last night is, and maybe it's a Montreal issue, but I mean, I look at the shots from their superstars and they were just nowhere to be found.
Yeah, I think when I look at the defensive struggles for the Stars or problems, I think opponents are just getting too much time and space in general. I do think the Stars have been a little better than they deserve credit for when it comes to taking away some prime areas, but they are still giving away too much time and space. And I think there's just been a looseness, if I use that word correctly here, a looseness where they're trying to push and make things work at the other end a little bit more, be a little bit more offensive. And I think that's creeping a little bit into the defensive side of the game as well. Not necessarily in a good way. Like it's the search for balance right now. Let's call it that, right? It's the search for balance. There's how do we have the world where the defensemen are rushing the puck, pushing the play, being part of the offense, but how do we also have them get a little bit more detail-oriented in their own zone without being too robotic once the puck gets on their stick? And this isn't just a Stars problem. Many teams have this problem. I was talking to last night. I did I wasn't at last night. I did the not dual screen. I intentionally started one game and watched the other one later. But obviously, I watched the Detroit Anaheim game last night. And yesterday morning, I had a conversation with Joel Quenneville for his media availability, the Ducks head coach. And Joel Quenneville was talking all about what they've been going through in Anaheim. And it's very similar conversation of how do we put details into the game when we don't have the puck, but then let players be free-flowing without it. And so the Stars are going through, I don't want to say a problem, but it's basically the reality of what the world is for today's NHL coach to figure out, if that makes sense here.
Yeah, no, it does. With all your years of experience in rooms, I wanted to ask you this. So they call it somewhat the game within the game. So a couple of instances last night, you had Bischel and one of the players going after him, and Thomas Harley actually stepped in and got in between them, which I thought was admirable considering that he's kind of banged up himself. We had the Lyubushkin fight in the third period to kind of calm things down maybe. And then prior to the game, the Glenn Gulletson putting Ritzkovian and Bork out there first, starting lineup, so they get to be out there for the national anthem and get their names announced in front of 200 or so friends and family combined. Do those things add up, in your opinion, with all your years covering rooms?
I think it depends. They do. I think those above board elements I think they matter in the right way, right? Like, I think it's one of those things where when they can be an enhancement, for lack of a better word, as opposed to a distraction at the same time, right? Where giving Maverick Bourque and Justin Ritzkovian a start in their hometown, that doesn't hurt anything, right? Like
Right.
Doing it in November, that doesn't hurt anything. Now, I don't want you making your decision on where somebody's from if you're starting a playoff game and you're looking at a matchup, right? Like that. Like, so
Sure.
I think once again we talk about balance with things. I also think there is one of the interesting things about this Stars team, to watch them and kind of, I think it was already a close group. I think what's happened so far this season between some of the adversity within their play, but still finding ways to win, between the injuries, between having to have someone else step up into the emotional leadership void that Jamie Benn left when he was injured. I think all of that is creating a much more cohesive team in the long run. It's one of those things where I wouldn't be surprised if you hear stories in April and May and hopefully beyond that about how close-knit this team is and everything like that. And players within that room will point back to what happened in October, November of how those balances were built. Those are the things, to me, that's where they matter. That's where they talk about and how you win games in that way and how they it adds to the enhancement. I mean, the Florida Panthers, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. It's cliche to say, oh, they're such a close team and they do all this and that together, but it's true. It's true. I've been around that Panthers team. I've talked to players on that team. I've talked to some people a little bit more unbiased about it as well. And it really is a group that, and all of that goes back to Alexander Barkov as the leader on that team. It really is a group that has the full understanding of the human side of all of this. And not that the Stars haven't had that in the past, but I do think this group, this team, because we only talk about the team that exists in this moment, is finding that. And the coaching staff can't do it, Gavin, right? Like, it's one of those things where the coaching staff, it's the coaching staff can't create a close group. That's on the players. But the coaching staff can go and do those little create those runways that allow players to support each other, like giving Maverick Bourque and Justin Ritzkovian the start in their hometown, for example. That sends a bit of a message. You know what? Not that, like, there's not a great example with some of the Stars' other guys because they're European, so it's not like they're going to go play a game in Davos or anything like that, right? Or in Switzerland. But it does send a little bit of, like, it's a little bit of that, where it's like, we have an understanding of the moment, and we have an understanding of there's a human side to this that we're going to embrace so we can grow together. So
it's very early, but I'm a little surprised that, I don't know, I've been cheering on Glenn Gulutzan. You know Glenn Gulutzan, Neil Graham, Nazardine, the coaching staff. I just think for some reason, and maybe winning is, everyone's focused on that, but when you look at the injuries and then you look at how the power play is vastly improved, and like you said, the team tightness, this really does seem early like, Gulutzan's done a really good job. To me, he deserves credit for what they've had to go through so far, but I don't know, maybe it's just not talked about a lot.
Yeah, I also think it's part of the wait and see part of it, where at the end of the day, and it is talked about within that group, like for that team, for the people that matter, for lack of a better word, it's understood and talked about. I do think one of the perception becomes reality and everything like that, right? One of the difficult things, and I wrote about this when Glenn got the job, is, and I'm a big believer in Glenn Gulutzan, by the way. I think it was the right hire, and I will stand by that. But one of the things that it's, unless you can't judge Glenn's body of work you largely can't judge his body of work by outside. The outside world has a hard time judging his body of work until round 3 of the Western Conference playoffs. That's just the reality. When you go and you fired a coach who reached the Western Conference Finals 3 years in a row, and in a results-based business, it's hard to be. Everyone, I think, is just waiting for. It's like, okay, well, this is what the Stars are supposed to do. Glenn's job is to get them that one more step in the playoffs. So everything else right now is kind of just what they're supposed to be. So he's not getting the credit. He's not getting the credit that he should be, and I think he knows that. It's not like he's seeking it out, but I think there's that perception of, well, this was going to happen no matter who the coach was. If they had just kept Pete DeBoer as the coach, this would have happened too. The reason they got rid of Pete DeBoer and brought in Glenn Gulletson was for round 3 of the Western Conference playoffs. It kind of steals a little bit from the moment in a way, and I think his demeanor, his handling of players is so much better than it was before. The first time around, obviously, he's grown a ton. He understands how to work with elite players, and that is so important with the Stars team right now, because you've got, not only do you have already established elite players, the Mikko Rantanens, the Miro Heiskanens, and everything like that, you have the other players, and now this isn't to say like Wyatt Johnston wasn't already elite, quote unquote, but like you got other players moving quicker and quicker into that realm, maybe at a faster speed and even better than you thought in a Wyatt Johnston. How do you handle that? How do you help with the ascension of a superstar? And I think Glenn's done a really good job with all of that so far.
So the power play scoring in 7 straight games, and I've seen some people say, well, that's Neil Graham. I mean, once again, you know them very well. Yeah. I'm guessing it's a combo of both, right? Because, I mean, people are starting to also say this. It's like, well, if you had Hintz, Rantanen, Johnston, Robertson, Heiskanen. But my point is Edmonton had McDavid, Draisaitl, and they weren't as good as when Gully came in, who made them better.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's that's something about I encourage people to go back and look at the numbers for the Oilers power play before and after Glenn arrived there, because he had a big impact on that. And it's also the spot of when a power play unit achieves or doesn't achieve, so much of our outside knowledge starts to sway what impact actually is on that, right? When it's because like if I was to go and like Gavin, if I was to go and tell a random fan, right, like you would be like, okay, what is Neil Graham's job description? What do you think the average fan would think Neil Graham's job description is?
Yeah, I think if they follow the team, they would say he's in charge of the power play.
Yeah. And that's fine, but do we think Neil Graham, so there's 60 minutes in a game, the Stars might spend 6 minutes in the power play. Do people really think for 54 minutes of the game that Neil Graham is just sitting there waiting for the next power play? Do we really think that? Do we really think at practice? Do we really think that on a day they don't do power play practice, Neil is just kind of off in the back room, just chilling and not doing anything? It's good. I think it's good that we know. I think it helps from a fan perspective, and I think it's pretty cool when we can learn a little bit of a larger perspective of the perspective of how the staff works and everything like that. But I think sometimes when we only get snippets of it, people kind of get too hyper focused on that. Neil Graham is technically in charge of the power play. He's the power play planner. We can call him that. But his job is also very much a conduit to younger players on this team. He is very much the connector for a Maverick Bourque, a Justin Ritzkovian, and we just talked about both of those guys. He's very much a connector for younger players and individual growth for a lot of guys. that we don't talk about nearly enough. We talked about it when he was the coach of the Texas Stars because that's what his job was, but that job has continued in the NHL. He's also part of making the calls on when and where to help with which make forward matchups and everything like that. So all of this to say, Gavin, it's the spot of like, I think when it comes to the power play and saying it's because of this guy or that guy and everything like that, it's a larger sum of the parts. And I don't know. I realize I'm all over the place in this answer as we're talking about it.
No, you're fine.
But I think the point here, my point remains that it is a whole staff, and to think that Glenn Goldson doesn't have a play in the power play or doesn't have a play in any part of the team is highly faulty. It's also impossible to not give credit where it's due to Neil as well at the same time. So that's kind of what I'm saying here. So,
well, let's move on to Saturday, and I got a few questions for you. Let's start with the generic. Have you ever looked into why, coming off even a successful road trip, why the first home game is a trap game? Is there any specific reasons that have come out?
You mean like why the first home game feels like a trap game?
Yeah, after a long road trip and say it's successful and then they come back and, the crowd is into it and everything, but they just can't get the legs going. And inevitably, it's been one of those things talked about that like that first home game coming off a road trip, sometimes can spell you a loss.
I think it also depends on how the road trip ends, right? Because I often think that last game of the road trip can feel like a bit more of the trap, right? Like it can feel especially a longer one. You're on a 4 or 5 game road trip. You've been out, you haven't slept in your own bed for a week and get that last game and like, okay, you're getting home tonight. Those can be tough. I think when it comes to teams or any team that struggles, any team that struggles in that kind of first home game in that scenario you talked about and everything like that, there might be, honestly, and this is just me spitballing as we talk right now, there's the reality of it can be easier to play on the road. And this is
Craig Ludwig talked about that.
Yeah. And I want to be clear, it can be easier to play on the road because when you're on the road, it is very much us against the world. It is the other 25, 26 people in this room when you talk about coaches and support staff and everything like that against the world. And it's a very simple, it's the hockey game. That's what it is. It's not managing friends and family in town. There's not the added pressure of this or that from being in the home building and everything like that. And so there are times where there can be road game advantages similar to basically it's how as a team do you embrace or not embrace that same thing when it comes to the comforts of home, right? So yeah. So let's look ahead. A much improved under Rick Tocchet Philadelphia Flyers, still early, but they're in the playoff mix. Trevor Zegras paying dividends coming from Anaheim in a big trade. I'm a massive Travis Konechny fan. I just love his game. He plays so hard. He's gritty, but puts up points. And then nice story, Dan Vladar, the goalie. 2.15 goals against, .919 save percentage. So, Stars are going to kind of have their handful against them. And then the Islanders are no easy out either next week as they're much improved. Yeah, and all teams that you're not going to see much, right, being Eastern Conference teams. Philly is going to be, both the Islanders and the Flyers actually have a very structurally gritty similarity to them, actually. So it's maybe it's a good thing that you're playing those teams in similar kind of in a similar kind of window. So I think that works out pretty well. It's the interesting thing about the Stars, though, Gavin, and it's something we're going to see tomorrow, is, and I wrote about this early in the season, and I continue to see it, they are such a measuring stick for other teams, right? Like one of the, even I was watching I watched the second period of last night's game. During the second period of last night's game, I flipped over to the Montreal broadcast for a little bit. And
oh, nice.
The Montreal broadcast was talking quite a bit about how Marty St. Louis, like they were saying, like normally you lose 7-0 or you lose a blowout and you just burn the tape. And they were talking on the broadcast about how because you played Dallas, you're not going to throw away the tape because Dallas is the measuring stick. Dallas is the team has done what you want to do. So you're going to use this as a measure. You're going to use this as your eye-opening, wake up moment. And I found that very interesting. It's something I've thought about all year with how I think the Stars are getting everyone's best, right? I think teams are rising to the occasion to play Dallas, to send a bit of the message, especially early in the season. And no matter who they play, whether it's Philly or the Islanders or whoever it is, obviously, in this next coming week, I think that's something that we can't ignore when it comes to this season. The Stars and the Panthers, for that matter, they're getting the Panthers out east. They're getting everyone's best. They don't have the ability to coast. And even last night's 7-0 win, it was a little bit of a coast offensively, but it was still a bad. Like Montreal kept playing with the puck, even though they were down. So maybe I'm too much of an optimist. Maybe I'm looking too much at the emotional part of this and everything like that. But that's another reason I don't have as many worries about this team when it comes to the faults in the game, because I think when every single game the other team is going 0-60 right away, games are going to look like this. It's a level of effort that the Stars have gotten no off nights from anyone. Like they haven't gotten Jakob Dobish maybe had an off night for Montreal last night, but yeah. Other than that, the Canadiens didn't have an off night. They came out and they swarmed them in the first period, 14 shots in the first period. So yeah, I keep going back to that with the Stars of this consternation, this adversity within games now. It is to steal the cliche. It's iron sharpens iron right now, and you might not see the results of it right now. But I looked at the Stars team. I look at other good teams that have gone through things like this, and you're like, okay, this is the adversity. This is the battle. This is the way you build the metal to win 16 games after game 82. So
yeah. And more injuries. This just came in when we're talking. Alex Newhook of the Canadiens underwent surgery today at the Montreal General Hospital. Surgery. He's expected to be out for 4 months. Boy, what a warrior to do what he did, and just came back from injury. So stick tap to Mr. Newhook, and I hope he gets a speedy recovery. So listen, I love the personal life of Sean Shapiro, and I love how people want to know about Sean Shapiro other than his hockey greatness. So you told me prior, and I'm a foodie, that you are smoking some wings tonight. So if you don't mind, and I'm putting you on the spot, what is the secret sauce, so to speak, of Sean Shapiro's wings?
Yeah, so we're smoking chicken wings tonight. The plan tonight is making the chicken. I got about 5 pounds of wings I'm making tonight. Some of those are for me and the kids and my wife. And then after the kids after the kids go to bed, me and a couple other people in the neighborhood, we play a very nerdy board game called Root. If anyone's ever heard of that, Root, it's basically it's a board game. And then I'm going to bring the remainder of the chicken wings over to my buddy John's house, and we're going to eat some chicken wings and play some games. And nice. But the wings. So we got three kinds going for tonight. We're doing like a hot honey barbecue. One of the started doing the prep where I basically put the wings in a gallon bag to kind of get the marinade going and everything like that before they go on the smoker. So we're doing like a hot honey barbecue. We're doing a lemon pepper, and then we're just doing like kind of like a more traditional, more bland barbecue basically for the kids / people who aren't as creative when it comes to the it's but so for me the wing part of it is because it's usually about a 2.5 hour smoke when I do the wings. The key is basically getting all the prep done so you kind of get the seasoning and the marinade flavor in there. Like right now they're sitting in the fridge in the gallon bags and everything, and then with the smoker part of it, once they go on the smoker, there's the patience to it, which is knowing that you're just going to leave it closed and trust your past experiences on the time on this, because I actually use a actual just a regular wood smoker. I have there's a guy who owns a farm about an hour and a half north of me, and I actually texted him last week because I'm getting low on wood. He has probably about once a year I have him bring me a face cord of cherry wood, and then I just kind of attend the smoker with the cherry wood and make the wings that way, and then after about 2.5 hours they'll be good. So this is my one of my favorite non-hockey related hobbies in the world is just to enjoy the outside, sit outside and tend the fire by the smoker and that stuff. So it's very peaceful for me. So
yeah, absolutely. True man stuff, right?
Yes,
I always feel that way. Like no matter what comes out, no matter how much of my eyebrows are seared, I don't know why. That, and walking through a hardware store, even though I don't know what the hell I'm looking for, it just makes me feel good. Puts hair on the chest. All right, my friend. Always great to hear from you. Hey, everyone. It's that time of year. If you're looking for a great gift, our friends Stephen Reserve and Sean Shapiro teamed up for We Win Here. It's a great book detailing the Texas Stars and some great Dallas Stars stories. So if you're looking for an early holiday gift, this is a wonderful gift for the Stars fan in your life. Another great gift is you can subscribe to Substack as far as Shap Shots. That's Sean's Substack page, and I promise you the information you get is well worth the monthly fee. He also writes for D Magazine and also for EP Ringside, which I consider the encyclopedia of hockey. I go to it all the time looking up statistics, so I encourage you to do that as well. And on Twitter, you can always reach out to him or follow him at Sean Shapiro. Enjoy the wings and enjoy the game, my friend, and we will catch up with you later on. Always a pleasure.
Always fun, Gavin, and I always appreciate it, and let's do it again next week.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for another edition of Spits and Suds. We will talk to you again with another podcast soon. Special thanks to our producer, Gregory Finley, and of course, the on-time experts for making this happen. Until our next podcast, have a great day, everyone.